All right, back to the town hall now. We're looking at restaurants, which of course, as you know, continue to face more restrictions than most industries here in New York. And some people feel that's justified, others not. But the 11 p.m. curfew that extends to midnight on Monday is still in effect. So is that requirement that all orders of alcohol be served with food.
And we have seen several calls this week to get rid of those restrictions, especially that curfew, which was removed for other businesses like bowling alleys and gyms later this month. And we still have the lawsuit going from more than 90 local restaurants that's led to that curfew being temporarily lifted and then put back into place.
So we have a lot to discuss on all of that. And joining us live tonight is Melissa Fleischut, President and CEO of the New York State Restaurant Association. I told you, one of our returning champions. It's been a while since we've spoken. We appreciate you coming back on.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Glad to have you back, Melissa. And so just this afternoon, Erie County residents were back before a judge, hoping again to get a number of these restrictions lifted. No decision tonight, but we are expecting one by the end of the weekend. And I want to ask you, knowing there's been so much back and forth with this already, how optimistic are you that restaurant owners will be getting what they want and keeping it this time around? And maybe bigger picture, how surprised are you that they're still having to fight so hard for some of this, considering that restrictions have been loosened in other industries?
Well, for the people who are participating in that lawsuit, we certainly wish them well and hope that they can get what they need from the court system. The interesting thing is that the Western New York lawsuit in particular has been one of the only ones across the state where we've seen any success for bar and restaurants suing against these state regulations. So I think that's particularly interesting as well. In other parts of the state, they seem to have lost by the most part. So we'll keep an eye on it for sure. And I guess, it's interesting to me in that it must mean that the state really has an issue with this 4 o'clock closing time for bars and restaurants. And we follow the rules at 3 p.m. We follow the rules at 3 a.m. It doesn't really matter when we're open or who we're serving or what we're doing. We have issues with compliance that we have to deal with and be responsible for at any time of the day or night.
Melissa, I want to ask you about, we've had this back and forth about, it's 11 o'clock at night right now. It's soon to be extended until midnight. But some people look at that and wonder who is ordering dinner at midnight or at 11 o'clock for that matter. Now, this applies obviously to restaurants and also bars. How would you explain that to folks? And is it just that bars, bars are businesses too, and they also would like to be able, to operate as safely as they can. Isn't though that more for bars than really for restaurants?
Well, you have to remember that this is a statewide curfew for all of our restaurants and bars. Yes, absolutely, the bars are certainly impacted by this, whether it be 10, 11, or 12 o'clock. They tend to serve later into the night, of course. But our restaurants, you'd be surprised. In the Westchester area, the Long Island area, New York City, we have folks who really just start going out to dinner at 10 o'clock at night. So this really matters to them. And since this is a statewide issue, we definitely need it for all the restaurants and all the bars to be able to stay open later. And I think the fine dining establishments really tend to take a longer time to provide that service. And they can also benefit from the extra hour.
There is one rule that's sort of grown out of the pandemic that has helped restaurants a bit. You're pushing for the state to keep letting restaurants and bars sell alcohol with their takeout orders. What is the benefit there? And do you think that that's realistically something that will stick around?
It's widely popular with consumers. Consumers love being able to order alcohol to go with their food. And it has meant a lot for those who are trying to struggle and just survive on takeout and delivery. As we continue to come out of this, we're not back as we're talking about. All these restrictions are still on the restaurant industry, and we're not back to where we need to be to have a sustainable business right now. So as takeout and delivery continue to be very popular, we would like to see alcohol to go continue to be allowed across the state. And we'd prefer not to have to continue to deal with this 30 days at a time under the executive order.
I should go on the record saying I have ordered a delicious steak at Mother's Restaurant, not far away, at 2:30 in the morning, or maybe even later before. So some people do eat that late.
Of course.
Melissa Fleischut is President and CEO of the New York State Restaurant Association. Great to see you again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for watching. Remember, you can keep texting us your questions and comments to 716-849-2200.